my husband is like a robot, right?
Hmm.
He has no emotions.
Hmm.
In fact, they even complain that even if he's happy, he has the same face. Even if he's upset, he has the same face, right? He has the same face throughout. Like, who am I dealing with?
Hmm.
And I can't get through to him at all. Like, he's like a wall.
But it felt like she's, putting a gun on me.
Their solution of dealing with it is we don't have to talk about it, distract yourself, let's
Hmm.
involve ourselves with something else,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and let's not wait. Why waste time talking about this? What's the point? Let's just solve the problem and move on.
Yeah.
And that's what ends up happening with most men.
Yo, guys, what's up? Welcome to another episode of
Happily
Whatever After Relationship and Tales. Bhulna nahi hai.
Tips
And Tales. Yes.
Tips and
Tales
tales
for
for
relationships.
relationships. Season
They
2
book
guys.
together. Yes.
हम हर एपिसोड में ये कर हर एपिसोड में. So we have a very special guest today with us. We've been waiting for Shridhar to come join us on our episodes, and finally he's here. Shridhar from Shridhar Life School has joined us today. Shridhar, let me tell you guys that Shridhar Life School is one of the only couples therapy, relationship therapy organization that I know of.
Yeah.
And I think it's amazing the work that they've been doing for 6+ years. And Shridhar is the, as we call it, Karta Dharta of that organization. And he's finally come to join us. So today we are going to talk to him about a lot of interesting things.
Yes, interesting things.
Probably have a small snippet of our therapy also.
Yes. And as you rightly said, that he is the life in the life school, right? Like,
Yes.
so there's a connect that he gives life to people. Let me
Yes.
put it that, and life to couple. That's what we have been through. And frankly speaking, as we have progressed in our life, not taking much of the time either, but then, as we have started taking therapy, I think we have got life. So welcome to our podcast, Sridhar.
Thank you, and thank you for such a great enthusiastic intro. Really liked it. So yeah.
We're glad.
We're glad. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we have one very burning question that keeps coming to us from most of our audiences. So we wanted to start with that and bombard you with it. That what does a typical couples therapy session looks like?
Oh, very interesting question, because I'll give you some patterns here because it does
Yeah.
vary, obviously.
Yeah.
तो मैं अपनी approach बताता हूँ, what I do, right? Like,
Yeah.
and of course in our team, how do we go about it? The first starting is always collecting information. तो like before even therapy starts, we send out certain forms and लोग अपनी problems लिख के देते हैं. तो शुरू होने से पहले ही we have an idea.
Yeah.
So even therapy start होने से पहले ही the therapist has some idea क्या landscape है, क्या हो रहा है, ठीक है? And then the session starts. Our goal is always to get the most painful information first, and like what really brings them there, and just prioritizing it. क्योंकि otherwise क्या होता है कि रिलेशनशिप इतने उनकी हिस्ट्री इतनी गहरी है, इतना कुछ हो गया होता है. इफ यू जस्ट ट्राई टू go through any other model of getting information, you can be there for 3 sessions and it's just information is coming up. So what we try to do is what is affecting you the most and like what brings you here. So in first session takes a bit of prioritization, taking out themes. These are the core themes, and also working with the client to understand, okay, what are your priorities right now? What would you want to focus on in the next few sessions, right? And my approach, in general approach, is to try to take things one at a time. So in that prioritization, instead of trying too many things, I'm like, okay, we'll pick the biggest one, get to the depth of it, solve it, then go to the next one and the next one and the next one. And so sessions are conducted like that only, where I try to do like a little bit of planning before each session. Okay, today we're going to talk just about in-laws, or today we're going to just talk about money, or just like about the past fight, that particular incident. And we're going to go to the depth of it, understand both of it perspectives, get to the most possible resolution. And once you feel okay, we are kind of done with this topic, then only we move on to the next one. So this is the flow that at least I take. Yeah.
Yeah.
So why we were asking this question is that बहुत बार हमारे पास ऐसे couples आते हैं, because we keep talking about therapy in our podcast, in our reels and everything, and Karan has been through a lot of mental health challenges, and I have as a result been through some of anxiety and stuff like that. But we both also came to couples therapy very late.
Yeah.
Like we thought that individual हो रही है तो सब सही हो जाएगा, बट ऐसा नहीं
Hmm.
होता है ना, कपल्स थेरेपी बहुत लेट हुई. तो यूजुअली व्हाट इज हैपनिंग इज एवरीबडी कम्स टू अस एंड सेज दैट वन ऑफ द पार्टनर्स इज रेडी and
Hmm.
wanting the other partner to come to therapy, but you cannot drag them
Yeah.
to therapy. So
Yeah, yeah.
so can you tell us something about this pattern that you've noticed, if you have noticed in this, that
Of course, it's like in majority cases, this is the pattern where one partner is more enthusiastic for it और दूसरे को खींचना पड़ता है. And वो हमसे पूछते हैं कि हम उनको कैसे लेके आएं. And there are some things that to keep in mind how to do that. So, for example, some of the things that we suggest is कि don't make therapy look like something कि there's something to fix in you, right? The moment you make like something is wrong with you, come to therapy. क्योंकि कल्चर में बोलते हैं ना कि कोई बहुत ऑड बिहेवियर कर रहा है, यू नीड थेरेपी, तो उससे इंडिकेशन क्या आ जाता है कि समथिंग रॉन्ग, यू नीड थेरेपी.
Hmm.
तो उसको अगर रीस्ट्रक्चर कर दें कि listen, we have issues and everybody has something to learn, and it's just another area to learn. And why not try therapy? And therapy is a way to just learn about something. That's one way to put it. Like another way sometimes could be where the uh, person, let's say, is absolutely resistant. Then what we try is, and it's partly true also, where we say कि मेरी तो इंडिविजुअल थेरेपी चल रही है, बट थेरेपिस्ट को आपका ओपिनियन चाहिए, राइट?
Correct.
आपका फीडबैक चाहिए, और वो फीडबैक एक्चुअली यूजफुल भी होता है, क्योंकि हम जब किसी एक बंदे से, इंसान से बात करते हैं, वो कभी भी फुल डिटेल में अपनी बात नहीं बताते, कितने भी ऑनेस्ट हो. तो जब तो थेरेपिस्ट, जब वो पार्टनर आता है इवन इफ जस्ट ओपिनियन देने के लिए, तो पहली बात तो कुछ इन्फॉर्मेशन मिलती है. और उस कॉन्वर्सेशन में अगर नए पार्टनर को ये इंडिकेशन मिल जाए कि यार ये थेरेपिस्ट एक्चुअली समझने की कोशिश कर रहा है, अटैक नहीं कर रहा, तो दे माइट एक्चुअली कम बैक कि दिस इज अ नाइस स्पेस, मजा आया आज बात करके, राइट?
Correct.
तो दैट्स अनदर वे वी एड्रेस इट. इट्स like I think you guys probably know this by now कि it's mostly just not being aware of what good therapy looks like.
Yeah.
And sometimes people are burnt in therapy too. A bad
Yeah.
therapist can really put people off for a really long time.
True,
किस
true.
और ये हमारे पास लोग आते हैं, बताते हैं कि यार उसने तो सीधा सीधा डिसीजन दे दिया, डिवोर्स कर लो, छोड़ दो, या ऐसा मतलब मेरे को गलत बता दिया, मतलब टॉक्सिक बोल दिया, कुछ जजमेंट दे दिए. एंड हम सोचते हैं कि ये तो बेसिक्स हैं, कि
हाँ,
कोई थेरेपिस्ट जज नहीं करेगा, बट
correct, correct.
there are out there, people are out there
We
not
know,
very
We know
trained or
that. We
very
know
yeah.
that. Yeah.
yeah. So अच्छा, you guys have personally
No,
had an
no,
experience or like
not that
Not
bad.
personal experience, but it's not about we have been through a lot of like therapists who are giving us judgment. But then whenever we have spoken to therapists and we have calling therapists on our podcast also, they have told that a lot of time, it is like, the therapist is not actually involved into talking to them. They are mostly busy on the phone. And,
yeah, that
therapy,
happens too, yeah.
that happens, right? Therapy is very, very deep conversations that you're sharing a thought. And if the therapist is not sharing or giving you that time when you're sitting in front of that person, then probably you are not going to feel that कि यार ये मेरे को सुन भी रहा है, because therapy is all about having those deep conversations, having those issues coming out and then solving it, right? So this is
Yeah.
one of the major issues that we've personally heard of people saying that कि यार वो therapist अच्छा नहीं था. And for me also, when I was suffering through depression, I also personally changed multiple therapists to make me comfortable, right? Like I had to understand that at what stage I am and what kind of therapist I would need who will understand me. So I had to go through multiple people resolving my issues. It does not happen with one. So that's also something that I have personally gone through.
Yeah, it happens all the time. It is really a finding the right fit thing, and takes time. And I'll be honest, like if some therapist comes to us, this happens to us also, like they might not have a fit with the first counselor. So that's why we have a very liberal policy. Okay, it's okay. We're going to change the counselor, give you one extra session so that you don't have to repeat everything. And we try to make sure, of course, with consent, that we record sessions whenever the client allows, so that the next counselor can just listen to the whole thing and the client doesn't have to repeat. So we try to inculcate that reality in our practice, that sometimes my first therapist, that somebody in my team member will not fit and they might have to go to somebody else also. So yeah, happens all the time.
True.
So one interesting question, Sridhar, that comes into my mind is that, I personally, when I was suffering through and the patterns that I have been raised in, let me put it that way, that I come from a very dysfunctional background and my mom, dad went through divorce, and I saw my father having multiple issues that were happening, right? And I was very rigid when I wanted to, and when my partner and we got married, शोक ही को चाहिए था कि मैं थेरेपी में जाऊं, एंड मुझे चाहिए था कि नहीं, सब कुछ अपने आप सॉल्व हो जाएगा, एवरीथिंग विल मूव ऑन इन लाइफ एंड देयर इज नथिंग दैट इज गोइंग रॉन्ग, बिकॉज आई हैव सीन माय फादर गोइंग थ्रू एंड चल रहा है ना, मतलब that's
Hmm.
there. So in your practice, what are those most common issues that Indian men seek therapy for? Like, because मुझे ऐसा लगा कि मेरे अंदर सब कुछ ठीक है, but technically वो problem मेरे अंदर थी, which was leading the relationship to break, and I was not able to look at those patterns. What are those major issues you can help me out with?
So I think there are two layers to what you asked. One is ki, what is bringing Indian men to therapy, like what are the issues, and also
Yeah.
how their patterns are affecting the relationship,
Yes.
which they should be sort of aware of.
Yeah.
So I'll answer the first one, which is that what brings men to therapy. Uh, Sadly, one reality is all around, which is usually people come to therapy when things really seem that they're ending now. So, like for example, just to give you an example, when people really feel that, so I had a client who just felt that, who was at the verge of thinking, should I leave the person or not? Like, this is not what I'm. So in their case, actually the problems were reversed, where the wife was just too involved in the lives in the household and with the child, and had, let's say, no attention for the husband. And the husband is thinking that, what is this, like, what's my place here, right? And the wife is just has she's become the mother, right? And not a wife. So
Hmm.
he came to me to therapy when it felt, okay, this is it, like, should I even continue, and like, should I be with this person, is there any hope? So many times people just come where they're like, okay, should I even make this effort or not, is this worth it to save? So that kind of confusion, that's a decision
Hmm.
making thing that people come in for. And in Indian context, men usually come in, to be honest, it's usually the wife dragging men in. But when they do come in, and when I do ask them the problems in the forms, the problems that they mention in the forms are usually related to that my wife is too critical,
Hmm.
like she criticizes too much, she has no connection with my family, she doesn't care about any relationships, and she doesn't respect me.
Mm.
And so these are the key patterns that we see in answers that we see from men. So they have a very uh, different expectations uh, from wife for their families than wife has for his family, right? So those expectations are usually very different in Indian context, especially in arranged marriages. And
Hmm.
those are the things that shock both partners. Ki, I thought this life would be different, and then uh, it's uh, it's just something else, and they bring some of those issues in therapy first. And yeah, criticism is one of the very common patterns, where the pattern is usually the husband is avoiding conversations.
Hmm.
They're like, okay, बात करने की जरूरत नहीं है. They're not talking about their emotions. And the wife, the way she wants to communicate, but the way she's communicating has problems. She's too
Mm.
critical. She's insulting, ridiculing a lot. And the husband then shuts down, and they're like,
Hmm.
Mm.
they don't want to talk. So these are the patterns we do see all the time.
Mm.
And sorry, and second question was the effect on the relationship, right?
Yeah, the
Yeah.
Yeah.
effect on the relationship.
Yeah, I guess the effect simply is that usually I say the effect in terms of negativity and distance, right? Those are the two larger effects, and that's what you
Mm.
see over and over. A relationship breaks down when negativity takes over.
Hmm.
Negative sentiment override. That's the phrase from Gottman Institute. The idea is that even your memories become negative, like things
Mm.
that you found good, even they become negative.
Mm.
Everything that is going on, the focus just complete becomes negative. So when you see those signs, that's what you see when it takes over. And another one is distance, where it's just like they start living like strangers,
Mm.
where there's nothing positive, no negative. So even that is like a breakdown of relationship, and that's what you see all the time.
Hmm.
Yeah, I mean, those are the two most probably common symptoms
So,
which you see. Yeah.
sorry. So one thing which you touch base, Sridhar, right now is that, males generally suppress their emotions, right? And when there is a heated conversation that is happening, or when there is the wife is critical, main largely males, in the society, they suppress their emotions, and probably that also comes from how they are born and brought up in the society,
Yeah.
to always look as, non-emotional. They are those doers in the family, or they are the bread earners, so they don't have any emotions to be shared. And this happened with me also, because as I told you about my life, that how I was being born and brought up, I never thought that, marriage will take so much of efforts. Why do I want to put so much of efforts? And somewhere down the line, when I started taking therapy, I understood that it is my mental patterns that I am carrying on from the generations. I am also suppressing the emotions that I'm going. Can you put some light that how does this affect the mental health by suppressing the emotions, right? How does how does suppressing of emotions take a load on mental health of a male?
Oh, it's a very important and interesting question, and it goes so deep actually. Like I'll also try to give like a background on emotion itself because it's very important to understand the role of emotions. And I have my own sort of summary of the role of emotions here. Of course, based on the scientific understanding of emotions. So, emotions are a good marker of what is important to your mind and body, right? So if it's important enough, it'll cause some emotion in both directions, positive and negative. So something you gain really good, which is good for your well-being, it creates a lot of positive emotions, and the opposite is also true. So the reverse, if you reverse engineer it, the moment you observe emotion in somebody, you can predict that something important to this person is happening. Now, if let's say you're not tuned into working with emotions or thinking about emotions and the emotional awareness. So, if you talk about emotional intelligence, what is the first step? The first step has to be I can first be aware of it that I'm going through something, right? That usually is the first step, and that's where even men miss out because you're not even able, you can't use that language like I'm sad, I'm
Hmm.
depressed. If
Hmm.
you when people come to us in therapy and if you ask them, "Okay, describe what you're going through," oh, I'm just upset, I'm just feeling bad, I'm angry, so they'll just have two or three words.
Yeah.
And even I personally have struggled to describe my own emotions, and I have gotten better at it with time because you're not used to that vocabulary, describing
Yeah.
your own
Yeah.
experience. So imagine if you don't have words for it, if you're
Hmm.
not aware that you're going through something, and like it's just a feeling that you have no name for, how would you even dig deeper and see where is it coming from, what's important behind it, what
Hmm.
needs to be solved, what are my deeper thoughts? That journey hasn't even started, right? So
Mm.
Yeah.
that's why for Indian men, or especially I guess men all
Yeah.
over, because they're by the way, there are on average natural differences also. Women tend to be better with emotions than men on
Yeah. Yeah.
average,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
with nurture,
Correct. Correct.
I mean that becomes even worse, right?
Yeah.
So the difference becomes even worse. So when men are not trained to do this, when they come into a relationship, what happens is that uh, the responses that they have are often very like not uh, it doesn't address the subtleties and the depth of the issue at all. These are
Hmm.
very generic. It's like fight or flight, right? You're going to fight back, you're going to run away from the situation, you're going to shut down. These are
Hmm.
like very superficial responses to problems,
Mm.
as
Hmm.
opposed to what are my deeper values, thoughts, beliefs, desires, where is it coming from, why am I upset? Like those things are not happening. So that is one of the biggest things that happen in men, and
Mm.
that's why those conversations are very difficult. So many women complain, have this one complaint that my husband is like a robot, right? He
Mm.
has no emotions.
Mm.
In fact, they even complain that even if he's happy, he's the same face. Even if he's upset, he has the same face, right? He has the same face throughout. Like, who am I dealing with?
Mm.
And I can't get through to him at all. Like, he's like a wall,
Correct.
Hmm.
right?
Correct.
And
Correct.
and and like even recently, a client shared with me that I know for a fact that my husband is suffering right now. I know he's affected. Like
Hmm.
in a recent party, he got affected by something, but he won't talk to me. I want to listen to him. I want him to share it with me. It's not even related to me, but he won't
Mm.
share it
Yeah.
because because the husband is thinking, and most men
Hmm.
are thinking, and I was also like that, by the way. You see emotion as negative emotion as a failure of control, like a
Hmm.
failure of this is out of my problem solving. Now suddenly this just got out of hand, and I don't want to feel like that. And if you have that feeling that okay, I am actually a person who handles stuff, right? Who's good at managing shit, then why am I this upset? And why is it affecting me? And why am I overwhelmed? So I won't admit to it because I want to feel in control.
Hmm.
And those two actually have this tension because technically, what is mastery over emotions? You ultimately learn to deal with the environment and the stimulus and the trigger, right?
Hmm.
Correct,
Hmm.
correct.
Ultimately, if you want to avoid negative emotion the next time, the path is you deal with the situation so well that when it comes again, you're like, okay, now I know how to handle it. Let's say,
Hmm.
again, your wife is late, right,
Mm,
to for a program. Now, first time it's going to make you impatient, but if you deal with that situation in a manner that, okay, I know that she's going to be late again,
Hmm.
and I don't want to feel this impatience again.
Hmm.
mm,
So, how do I think of it differently that next time she's late, I can still stay calm? If the man does that work, he can avoid that negative emotion next time. But if you don't do that, the emotion will keep repeating itself, right?
mm,
Yeah.
So, this is why this kind of work where you identify that this is an emotion and there are thoughts and behind it, so there are thoughts and values and narratives behind it, and you work on them, and that's how I can avoid negative emotion. This is people don't know this. It's a skill. They
Hmm.
just their solution of dealing with it is we don't have to talk about it, distract yourself, let's
mm.
involve ourselves with something else,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and let's not wait. Why waste time talking about this? What's the point? Let's just solve the problem and move on.
Yeah.
And that's what ends up happening with most men. So yeah.
I think that is something that Karan and I also dealt with for a very long time.
Yeah, I was just supposed to talk about that, when in the start of our relationship, when we got married, जब भी मैं घर पे आता, ऑफिस से नई नई शादी हुई थी और घर पे आता, तो आई यूज टू मिस माई फ्रेंड्स, एंड आई एट सर्टन 1 महीना 2 महीने के बाद इट बिकेम वेरी क्रिटिकल फ्रॉम शोकी, दैट शोकी यूज टू ऑलवेज से दैट कि यार ये नहीं हुआ, ये नहीं हुआ. एंड आई वाज लाइक कि आई विल गो आउट, आई विल गो विथ माई फ्रेंड्स, एंड देन वेन एवर शी यूज टू टेक or say something to me, but it was not something that she was trying to pinpoint on me or trying to say that ki you are doing some certain thing wrong. She was just trying to you know share the emotions and trying to understand what am I going through. But it felt like she's putting a gun on me that ki तूने ये नहीं किया, तूने ये नहीं किया, तूने वो नहीं किया. And this is one of the larger issues that we as a couple faced and we understood. Do
And I
you?
think it was a vicious circle
Yeah.
that never ended overall. Like I could see, like you just mentioned your client saying, I could see that he is suffering through something, but he will choose not to talk about it. And he would actually use words like, I go into a shell when something like this happens. So you have to let me be. And it used to just bother me so much that what is this shell? If you don't talk to me, then who are you going to talk to? And as you rightly said, that women are more attuned to emotions, so they can also sense.
Yeah.
I could see that
Yeah.
he's upset, he's
Yeah.
not okay, but he's not telling me why it is, whether it is me or something else that has happened in the home or my complaining that has made him like this. There has to be a communication. It was zero at that point of time, and I think that was a loop, because then I used to pressure him to talk. He used to further retreat into a shell. He used to distract himself, come back home, and I used to again complain. So
Hmm. And
it
you
was,
probably sometimes women take it personally also, right? I don't know if you did or
we
not, which
both
is
did.
We
like,
both did. She did
yeah,
it
yeah.
He
personally,
took
and
it personally that अरे ये तो हर बात पे मेरा वो मेरी गलती निकालती है, and I took it personally कि तुमको तो मेरी कुछ पड़ी ही नहीं है. You're just like constantly
Huh.
out and with
yeah,
other
You're
things.
shutting me out. You're not talking to me. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. I
So
mean,
I'm
that
I'm
that
not.
not
was a
your. Am I
constant
not your
thing.
friend? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
Hmm.
yeah, yeah.
And the irony was that ours is a love marriage. So we dated around 3 years before that. So that time everything was fine. Now suddenly शादी के बाद ये wall कहाँ से खड़ी हो गई? ऐसा क्या हो गया? Type thing. So it really
Hmm.
like bothered us.
Bothered us. Yes.
Yeah.
So another question that I have is, uh, generally, there are the males, how you have been born and brought up, right? uh, if I talk about me personally, I became a bread earner for my family at a very early age, and I was raised as a person that कि तू लड़का है तो तेरे को घर की responsibility लेनी है. I was never
Hmm.
been told that you will also be able to share the emotions which we spoke about. I was also never been told that it's okay that if you don't earn money for a certain age, largely in these traditional gender roles, how does that affect the mental health of Indian men? Especially if I talk about the Indian family, or you can talk about not about Indian family, the way the males are being raised, and also in the work settings. How does it differentiate, and how does it affect the mental health of a male?
Like I
Hmm.
remember Karan telling me at one point of time that his first major depression episode came about because of a work thing.
Yeah.
And it was before I was in his life, but I could identify that this is something bigger than just feeling low, because he just did not get out of bed for 10-15 days and used to have palpitations and stuff like that, and it was triggered because of a work issue. And and what was adding to his issues were the fact that he was the sole provider for the family, so he cannot really have that time out to decompress his
Hmm.
mind.
Yeah.
And my heart was breaking to hear him say all of those things, and yet he was telling me that but मैंने उस टाइम पे भी I provided, मतलब I managed to give my mother the money that I used to give every month, even though
Hmm.
I had quit the job. I was not able to get out of bed, but I was still managing somehow to give the money to my mother. So that was something that made us come to this question, that how men are just supposed to not get off the wheel, you know.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, the it's a reality of all conservative societies, and one of the big critiques of gender roles is this, that it doesn't take into account the individual variance and individual differences, and uh, it creates these templates that you have to follow, and if you don't, you're not enough. And that plagues, I guess, men and women alike in different ways. And because we're talking about men today, and exactly what you said, this is so the idea is that growing up, men take examples obviously from men around them,
Hmm.
and they have very close role models. So even though you may look at celebrities or successful people as much as you like, but your actual real role models and the way you behave usually turns out to be people around you, because those are the people you're going to get very immediate feedback from and
Hmm.
appreciation from. Because, and this happens right through childhood, right? Let's say, just to give you an example, in my culture, you know that if you seem very obedient to elders, then elders will appreciate you a lot. So
Hmm.
it's like now children are going, so हमारे culture में जय श्री कृष्णा करते हैं, right? So like,
Hmm.
I mean, हमारे culture में like you go and जय श्री कृष्णा करोगे तो तुम्हें पता है कि oh ये देखो, these children are so civilized, right?
Hmm.
So you know what will get you social approval from your
Correct.
close, and those are the people you want to impress the most. Those are the
Hmm.
people you want to say कि okay, here is a successful human being and I like you, and you come to like, and you are like us and you are actually better than us, right?
Hmm.
So you, in that, from that point of view, you can pick any trait. You
Hmm.
can take you can take religiosity, right? Children, sometimes it used to like, I always thought that with time religiosity is probably decreasing in life, but you see the newer generation, sometimes they're going extra. I have cousins who are much more religious even than their own parents, and I'm like, how is this happening, right?
Hmm.
The answer again is that they know that when they are religious or something, when they do something worshiping, the
Hmm.
elders are really appreciative of them, and they want to do it more. So now the same applies to gender roles too. So when men see that around me, the men who have earned a lot of money and who have a lot of control in the house, and who are the leader of the house and who can manage things, and I mean examples like, when you hear stories about this uncle, who is this influential human being, everybody in the house and the society listens to him, right? And when you know that this is what's being appreciated, like how a man handles the house and society and work, and how he's capable of things, and how, so those are the things you also inculcate. Okay, yeah, that's what I'm gonna aspire to, right? And that's why every man, when they find out that some man has earned a lot of money and is taking care of the family in such and such way, they know that this is going to get us that
Hmm.
social acceptance and approval.
Hmm.
And that's how it just gets ingrained, and they want to do it more and more. And they know that if I go too far from it,
Hmm.
I'll be like, I'll be just different, and I won't get the same level of acceptance approval. So, and that's where things like the beta male, or
Low
you are a
Low
weak
testosterone.
woman.
I was
testosterone.
just going to
Yeah,
say
we're just
that.
coming to that point. Yes, we're just coming to that point, right?
Yeah, so that's where it comes, because if you go away from that image that you've been seeing around yourself, then you're not going to get the respect of males around you, your
Yeah.
own uncle, your
Mm.
own friend, or your own relatives, or like your own, probably your own father, because
Yeah.
Yeah.
even parents say like manage your wife, right?
Correct.
Like
Yeah.
so I mean, that's how these things just I mean, continue over generations. And this, obviously, the big issue with this is that, again, science is very clear on this, that personality wise there is a huge overlap between men and women.
Hmm.
So all the traits that we see in men are in women in different degrees. And
Hmm.
that's why in a particular couple,
Hmm.
the woman could definitely be more capable even in finances, or she could be more capable in leadership, and the man could be just enjoying cooking, and they could just enjoy decompressing, or they could just enjoy with children. So all of this variability can happen in couples, right?
Hmm.
And we all know some couple in our own distant, let's say, relatives, where the woman is a matriarch. Like even my
Hmm.
own boy is sort of the head of the family. Even like in my Dadaji's extended family, I know couples like that. So how did that happen, right?
Hmm.
Where
Hmm.
the woman is making all the decisions, because individual variability, and gender roles are just not compatible with individual variability, right?
Hmm.
Mm.
Because you put the gender as the center thing, and now you're matching up to that. So the transition basically becomes, okay, from gender roles to individual variability,
Mm.
your own, what do I really care about myself, what are my strengths, what are my weaknesses. And the more you make the transition, the more you make life easier for yourself and for your partner, and you optimize for uh like strength. So it's like, I mean, if you think about the old caste system, right? Like the Hindu society is divided in four different castes, and
Mm.
everybody will do different jobs. But
Yeah.
imagine if you have that in a company, right?
Mm.
If you assigned leadership roles or team managerial roles based on their caste, what would the team look like?
Mm.
But we don't do that, right? We look at the
Yeah.
CVs. What
Correct.
have you studied? What are you
Mm.
interested in? What is your experience?
Mm.
So that same approach of looking at the CV and then giving them a role applies to a relationship as well, where like,
Hmm.
let's look at each other's CVs, your own
Correct.
experiences, education, and let's
Correct.
apply that to the household. So that's
Correct.
Yeah.
that's the same logic. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, beautiful. So, and very interesting question that comes into my mind right now is that Sridhar, there is this whole childhood that comes into play when we have largely heard about it that ki once you get married, right, people just generally think about that शादी हो गई तो सब कुछ ठीक हो जाएगा, ठीक है. बट जब शादी एक्चुअली में होती है ना, तो आप बचपन के चाइल्डहुड पैटर्न्स या एक्सपीरियंस
Replicate
रिलेशनशिप में
करने
रेप्लिकेट
लगते
करने लग जाते हो. यू ट्राई टू bring in those unresolved patterns or those unresolved traumas that you have been carrying on for such a long time, because now you have got someone whom you love and you want that partner to take care of those traumas. And once you get married, those traumas or the patterns start coming in. How do you think that this childhood experience influence the mental health of Indian men, and how therapy can help a relationship get better, or these childhood experiences get better or heal?
Hmm. So I think, in my experience at least, that the effect of childhood is not so much in the area that I want my partner to take care of those traumas, or let's say I want them to solve the problems that I've unresolved from childhood.
Hmm.
The the bigger effect that I have noticed, and I kind of know, is that uh, the familiarity factor, which is like, what what was familiar to you in childhood just becomes the right thing in your marriage,
Hmm.
even
Sure.
if it's toxic, because
Yeah.
you have lived through it, you have seen the good and bad, and that familiar zone becomes, okay, at least I know what's the worst here, right?
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
it's because I've seen it, now suddenly it becomes the normal and the right thing.
Correct.
And if and your partner has a very different childhood, they have very
Hmm.
different familiarity to things.
Correct. Correct.
So their right and their normal is very different.
Hmm.
And to the degree the partners make the argument that because I've seen it, I've seen my parents do this, so that's why it's okay, they remain incompatible. right? Because their parents, unless they are very similar, which
Correct.
which it usually never is the case.
Correct.
So their parents are different, their childhood is different, so their normal and right is different.
Hmm.
And what adults need to do is
Hmm.
reflect on this reality that, listen, this pattern is not coming from core first principles reasoning, from not scientific evidence, from not what good relationship principles are. It's just coming from something that I'm familiar from the past, and I'm giving it way more importance than it actually deserves. And maybe I need to let this go. Like, so for example, let's say I'll give you a personal example, right? Like my wife, she has grown up in an environment where her dad would just give her a gift almost every other day, right? He would come back home, get her a gift, something like, and she was just pampered like that. And like proper excessive shopping, like you can just shop anything you want. Like that was his way of pampering them. My household, absolutely opposite, right? Where we like, what's the point of gifting? Like we were sort of above this. Like we thought we were like, we had risen above all of this social norms, and like, okay, who cares? I mean, it's a waste of money. You give gifts and people will not even use it. It's a waste of money. You spend your own time and it's a clutter in their house. There's no point, right? And even with celebration, we were like, it's okay. I mean, who cares? I mean, it's just another date, right? Complete opposite. So now when we come into a relationship, and when there is another incident, or let's say there a time to celebrate, or it's a time to gift, or even it's we are about to give to common friend, our philosophies are very different. I'm thinking, let's give something useful, something functional,
Correct. Yeah.
or maybe just skip gifting. And she's thinking, no, 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 we'll give them something that they'll give them this pleasure, their desire, like
Yeah.
they would not buy anything otherwise. And she thinks that's the right way of gifting, and I'm thinking that's my right way of gifting. So we are not recognizing ki both have their own pros and cons. We're like, okay, this, because that feels normal to me. And I gave you a very casual example, and you can take the worst example. You can take you can take the most serious examples of life also.
Yeah.
Almost anything that you're going to go through, you've probably seen some of it in your own childhood, in your
Yeah.
own parents, and you've gotten ki, okay, this is the familiar zone. It's like, for example, let's say, what could be a trickier one, a deeper one. Let's say you have seen your own father make inappropriate, or let's say flirtatious jokes with women in the family. Let's say साली के साथ, भाभी के साथ. Let's say कि यार ये तो इतना तो चलता है, and the woman is disgusted by it. Like, what? Like, why would you even say that? Why? How can you even think this is so disgusting? And the man is thinking, oh, I've seen my uncles and my relatives do that all the time. It's fun, it's playful,
Yeah.
everybody enjoys it. And the woman says, this is so inappropriate. How can you like even make any flirtatious things, right? So now they are just they're not exactly discussing on the actual harms of the things, but about what I know is safe and sound. So just another riskier example, let's say.
Yeah. The
That's
same
what I
thing
seen is
actually, yeah, actually same thing happened with me and Karan also. I came from a place where we were told that जितनी चादर उतने पैर, इतने ही पैसे हैं, तो आप अपने उसमें रहो, लिमिट में रहो, ज्यादा स्पेंड मत करो. And ironically, Karan came from an even lower middle class background, but somehow they were always of the opinion that देख लेंगे यार, मतलब as in you do whatever, आज पैसा है तो हमें जो लेना है हम ले लेते हैं. So that was a major issue between me and Karan regarding finances.
Yeah.
That I used to be like कि how can we overstep? इतना तो बैंक में पैसा होना ही चाहिए. You can't buy something so expensive. And Karan's like, बैंक में पैसा है ना, ले लेते हैं, क्या फर्क पड़ता है? So yeah, we've also.
That's, by the way, the opposite between me and my wife. So I'm the one who's like, okay, has to be some structure, some saving, and we only spend this much. And she's like, she'll plan for expenses even for the next salary. Okay, and salary to I real. Let me just like, I want this right now. Let's just let's just buy that.
Yeah.
Hey,
So
it's
I deal with I deal with that too. So yeah.
Yeah.
perfectly.
But I'm very curious to so this is something that we've been trying to tell people. What we did at some point of time, Karan and me, before marriage was we told each other everything from our childhood. And it was very hard for me to get Karan to open up about his childhood. But we did it as an exercise because we really truly wanted to understand that what are we getting into. So do you think that on their own, without any therapy getting involved and all, this is a good idea to get to know your partner's childhood experiences to understand them better?
Yeah, why not? So, I, as a general rule, the more information you have about the partner,
Hmm.
the more sort of trust you have. Okay, I know the landscape of this person.
Hmm.
I know his worst and the best. I know the range that I'm dealing with,
Hmm.
right? Otherwise, the distrust usually or suspicions or usually those things where like, is this going to be like, otherwise you're just guessing or you're not even sure what will happen if things really go really bad. But if
Hmm.
you've heard the worst examples of or the most difficult experiences also of your partner, you kind of know and you're able to predict your partner better, and that brings in a feeling of, I know you more, I can trust you more, I can predict you more, right? And that's really helpful. And in general, it's a nice test also where how does your partner deal with sensitive information about
Hmm.
you.
Hmm.
So if you're doing that like before marriage, in the assessment phase, then if it turns out that the partner is too judgmental,
Hmm.
if they can't take it, and yeah, if they cannot, so somehow they're just not very understanding of your real honest
Hmm.
self, then you know what the future is for you as well, that in future also I'm probably going to get judged too much, and
Yeah.
maybe this won't be a nice understanding relationship. So uh, it's a nice test also how much you can take with each other, how much we can understand each other.
Hmm.
And yeah, I mean, in general, I always say you can never be 100% transparent,
Hmm.
because of course you are an individual first. You may have your own personal thoughts and experiences that you may not want to share with anybody, and that's understandable. But it's like a direction, a tendency towards transparency is what I say, like more and
Hmm.
more transparency as much as possible. Because the ideal utopia, let's say, would be
Hmm.
I'm able to say 100% that's in my mind, you're able to say 100% that's in your mind, and we still understand each other and we still like each other. That's the utopia, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe some couples have reached it too.
Hmm.
And but what I'm saying is ki you have to test your own boundaries and sort of inch towards it and work with your partner that allow me to share more and more. You understand me more. You share more
Hmm.
and more. I'll understand you more.
Hmm.
So I'm definitely in favor of uh, more information and more discussions. Yeah.
Are there any tools that, like some simple exercises or tools we can tell our audiences for doing this, for achieving this intention of transparency at least?
Actually, there's a nice exercise from Gottman Institute itself.
Yeah.
It's called Love Maps. That's the goal of that is that it's like a series of 50, 60 questions, and you just sit down and ask each other. It ranges from smaller questions like what's your favorite color to who's your best friend, and like just
Hmm.
life questions from many different dimensions, and
Hmm.
both partners answer for each other. So
Hmm.
that's like a systematic way of answering questions. Otherwise, you don't even sometimes come up with
Yeah. Yeah.
questions, right? Like, yeah.
The
So
pointed
love
questions
maps is
yeah.
something that anybody can look up, and I think those exercises are available. So
For free
Yeah.
yeah, they're available for
online.
free. Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Love Maps, Gottman Institute. Yeah. I mean,
Okay.
So
people will find it. Yeah.
Great.
we
Great.
should great. Okay. So Sridhar, the very very hard question I would ask. At least it was very hard for me. Why? Because it took me 4.5 years to come to this point that I need therapy. And males generally have those, which you were talking about, right? That testosterone power that you go and therapy males ke liye nahi bani hai, and society also says that ki tu mard hai, mard ko dard nahi hota, men cannot cry. We spoke about emotions. A lot of things happen generally in the society. Can you suggest what are those small steps men can take if they are hesitant about therapy, and how do they know that they need help, right? Overall at the situation. Because for me, Shokhi struggled for at least 4.5 years to make me come to this point, and only COVID was able to make me possible to go to therapy. Because मेरे को अब टाइम मिल गया था, मैं घर पे बैठ के शांत दिमाग से सोचता था, बिकॉज मेरे को बाकी टाइम तो टाइम मिलता ही नहीं था, एंड मेन जनरली डोंट गेट टाइम. So what are those small steps If you can guide us, please.
I'll say two, three things which people must think of, and that actually makes the therapy decision very easy. Uh,
Hmm.
One is just have a universal understanding that everybody in every area of your life you can improve, right? Now, the question is how much do we improve in each area depends on our priorities, what is affecting us the most. So let's say if you're reasonably healthy, you would not think about getting a coach, right? A
Mm.
fitness coach. But if you're obese and you know that you're at a risk of heart attack,
Hmm.
your first priority should be get a fitness coach, right?
Hmm.
So that's one criteria. Okay, right
Hmm.
now, where are you with your mental health and relationship health? And whoever is feeling that, okay, right now I'm getting the most unhappiness from this area, prioritize that. And when prioritizing that means just getting more knowledge and skills. That's it. Those are the two simple words, knowledge and skills.
Hmm.
If you get knowledge and skills about any area, you improve in it. And
Hmm.
therapy is just one among many sources to get more knowledge and skills. That's it,
Hmm.
right? So you can read a book, you can listen to a podcast, or you can go to a therapist.
Hmm.
So the idea is to get knowledge and skills to solve your pain. That's a simple
Hmm.
thing, right?
Mm.
Now, next factor is simply affordability, because we understand that therapy can be expensive. So for people who can afford therapy reliably, that's
Hmm.
sustainably, if they are high income, for them it's a no-brainer,
Hmm.
because it will not only solve your problems,
Yeah.
but it in itself is an experience that people have never had before. And I think you guys can also probably attest to that.
Correct.
Being able to sit in an environment with your partner where it's a safe space where you can talk about your deeper feelings.
Hmm.
You do not have access to an experience like that without the therapy space, because otherwise, when you do try to talk on your own, you do end up hurting each other,
Yeah.
sometimes way more than
Yeah.
before.
Yeah.
So it's such a unique thing that you'll experience with your partner. So I would say think of it like travel also. Travel, what we
True.
want is new experiences, right?
Mm.
Yeah.
Let's experience new stuff, new food, new places. So therapy in itself, being able to have those conversations, is a new experience in itself. So you can
Correct.
think of it like that too. So people who can afford it, it's a no-brainer. And in fact, there are people who can afford it. They
Hmm.
don't even have to wait for a problem to show up. They just do it as like a regular thing, which
Yeah.
is like we just have to go there. It's like a regular check-in thing,
Yeah.
and that actually helps, because if you look at the way I see it is, if the in life, what are the key important things?
Hmm.
Health, your
Mm.
relationships, your finances, your recreation. So we want to address all of them. So if relationship is important, what is the most important relationship? Your love romantic relationship. And if it's the most important one, it should deserve your time, energy, money.
Mm.
Hmm.
If it doesn't deserve your time, energy, money, is it even important to you?
Correct.
So I think your importance should be reflected in your expenditure of time
Correct.
and money, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
So that way, I should say your values should be aligned. And
Hmm.
uh, when you make therapy really your priority, naturally, uh, sorry, when you make a relationship your priority, naturally, therapy is one of the very good answers to working on it.
Mm.
And if you do not have that affordability, then in those cases, I do say, then think of it like a temporary treatment,
Hmm.
like going to the doctors, where try to get out from the worst of it,
Hmm.
and then try to manage it on your own through self-help resources.
Hmm.
But at least for a period of 2 to 3 months, as like
Yeah.
a surgical strike on your issues, still go through that.
Correct.
And
Correct.
if you afford it, make it part of your lifestyle. So that's how I would
Hmm.
frame the adoption of therapy. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's what Karan and I also did.
Hmm.
One of the biggest mistake that I made was, like you said in the first half, that I tried to tell him that you need therapy.
Mm.
I never tried to say that we need therapy, or I never tried to say that I will go to therapy as well. Uh, or I never even thought that if I take therapy, maybe he will see the differences in the relationship and things will
Mm.
get better.
Yeah.
That also never
Mm.
happened. So somehow I was the culprit to make him feel like, एक तो पहले ही मेंटल हेल्थ की लगी पड़ी है, उसके ऊपर से मैंने ऐड कर दिया कि तुमको मैं कब से बोल रही हूँ, तुम थेरेपी नहीं गए, ये हो जाता हमारा सब कुछ सही हो जाता अभी तक टाइप थिंग. एंड देन
Mm.
it unfortunately had to come to that breaking point, that this or I walk off. is when we decided that okay, he needs. Still, I didn't go to therapy. I was still like, okay, finally, mission accomplished. I sent him to therapy. And obviously, it was much more like right now I can joke about it, but it was very serious at that
Yeah,
point of time. But afterwards, now in hindsight, I realized that I was also late for my own therapy for at least 2.5 years.
Yeah.
So I
yeah.
like the fact that you are comparing it for all the couples who are listening to us or people who are considering therapy. Maybe shift the perspective, like Sridhar said, that maybe think of it as an experience.
Yeah.
Like you would go on a date night,
Yeah.
right, to experience something new. So why not keep an open mind and see if
Yeah.
you like it?
Yeah.
And then one
Really, I
interesting.
mean,
Yeah. Please go ahead.
how,
Sorry.
how was your actually? I wanted to ask. So, when you together first had therapy, where you felt like, okay, this is the right fit for us, this the therapist is working well. What were your first initial like aha moments? Like, okay, we did not know that therapy could, let's say, give us this.
So for me, Sridhar, I think personally speaking, मेरे लिए थेरेपी तो पहली बात मेरे को अपने इमोशंस को समझने के लिए टाइम लगा. आई कुड
Mm,
अंडरस्टैंड व्हाट इज दैट राइट एंड रॉन्ग. एंड आहा मोमेंट फॉर मी वाज दैट you know that whole situation where I knew that I am taking right steps in my life, but somewhere down the line my old patterns, my way that I was being born and brought up, and the way I saw 30 years of my life, or you can say 28 years of my life, raised by a family who wanted me to be someone who I never wanted to be. And I need to take steps to be with my partner, correct, even after making those decisions. That was my aha moment. And when I went to therapy with her, it just made things stronger for me to believe in both of us and believe in the relationship, that हम इतनी सारी चीजें पार करके आ चुके हैं, इतने सारे ट्रबल्स पार करके आ चुके हैं, that now if we leave that space, or if we leave the relationship, probably you are not going to be happy with anyone else, because आपने इतना टाइम दे दिया, आपने इतना सब कुछ कर लिया वो रिलेशनशिप के लिए. And that was the moment for me that it realized that no, I know myself. I know myself better. Therapy helped me to understand my relationship better with her. Therapy helped me to build a stronger base, which was sort of stronger, but there was little cracks in it. Let me put it this way. So
mm,
those happy moments, those aha moments kept on coming multiple times as we went on to therapy and started understanding deeper meanings of relationship.
mm.
And I think
Interesting.
for
Yeah.
me, the biggest realization in therapy was twofold. One was that I was raised to be the सुंदर सुशील ग्रह कार्य में दक्ष लड़की. लाइक तुमको सबके, लाइक यू जस्ट सेड, जय श्री कृष्ण स्टाइल, यू हैव
Mm,
टू
mm,
टच एवरीबडीज फीट, यू डोंट हैव टू टॉक बैक टू एल्डर्स, यू हैव टू ऑलवेज ओबे, ऑलवेज बी नाइस, नॉन कन्फ्रंटेशनल, नेवर बी, लड़ाई झगड़ा नहीं करना, इधर की बात उधर नहीं करना. व्हेन यू बिकम अ बहू in someone else's, even though I was an independent woman living in Mumbai, working in media and doing
mm,
everything, but my belief systems and values were so strongly instilled in me that when things used to go wrong with my in-laws, I used to feel like I'm doing something wrong by standing up for myself.
mm,
And as a result, I used to blame कि कौन है, किसके कारण हो रहा है मेरे साथ ऐसा, ये. So I used to
mm,
just suddenly my love and affection and everything had just turned into resentment. And
mm,
therapy made me realize that उसकी गलती नहीं है.
mm.
It's just like how I was designed. I say designed because you're molded a certain way since you
Yeah.
are a kid. So like how I was designed to be a good bahu, he was designed to be a good beta, not a
Mm,
husband, a beta.
mm.
So I converted into a bahu, but he could never convert into a
Yeah.
husband for me. So that is when
Mm,
it was a light bulb moment for me in couples therapy. But
mm,
the good thing that happened for both of us was before couples therapy, we both had been to individual therapies.
Hmm.
So that had given us a little bit more awareness
Hmm.
in general.
Yeah.
So that was it. And in couples therapy, we obviously found out our attachment styles and love languages and stuff like that. So that helped us better communicate. And like Karan said कि इतना सब कुछ हो गया था ना रिलेशनशिप में. इफ यू लिसन टू द पॉडकास्ट, मतलब वी ऑलवेज ऑलमोस्ट डेल्ट विद, like there was a near death accident, and we had
Hmm.
broken up our marriage once, that there was dowry involved. So you name it, and there was that
Yep.
drama
It was all
in
of
our
yeah,
life.
yeah. And
Hmm.
frankly speaking, I think uh, as our relationship started, Sridhar, it was just those things which वो जो unresolved pattern थे ना, वो resolve करने के लिए हम छोटी छोटी चीजें करते रहते थे. We did not have issues between both of us. We were always been aimed, or you can say that hurdles which came into our relationship were only because of outside people. We both loved each other. A lot of times,
Hmm.
in relationship, what happens is you tend to give up the relationship because of other people. What are other people saying? Dunya kya kahegi?
We also
Dunya ne
did
ye
that.
bola. We also did that. But then at the end, what really helped us both was that we both did not lose each other's trust. We did not let go of each other's hand at any given point of time. We're like कि हाँ ठीक है, मैं करूँगा. We struggled. I think that's what love is. That's what relationships are all about. That even if it breaks up, you need to join in and then build and take it forward wherever it can go. So that was the time. But then therapy really helped both of us as humans individually and as couples.
Well, I mean, it's very good to hear like a detailed success story of a couple working through things and actually making use of therapy, which is what the goal is, which is why we do this, right? Like we
Yeah.
we, we want to help people do that, and it's very good to hear that. So thanks for sharing. And I must comment, every time like I think of it, like it takes a certain amount of courage to go in so much detail about your own life. People can say like, okay, तुम किसी लिए भी कर रहे हो, but still it's you're being real, and that's a very positive force in society because it gives other people more freedom to be real. So yeah, I mean, kudos to what you guys doing
Thank
in
you
your
so
Thank you
personal
so
much.
and
much. Thank you so much.
Instagram life. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes.
thank you. So yes, guys, this is it from our side. अरे this is it नहीं, picture अभी बाकी है मेरे दोस्त. So on public demand, we have some exciting news. Next episode में हमने हमारे viewers के request पे एक live therapy session किया है श्रीधर के साथ, जहाँ पे हम हमारे रियल इश्यूज डिस्कस कर रहे हैं और उसको रिजॉल्व कर रहे हैं. सो प्लीज स्टे ट्यून्ड फॉर द नेक्स्ट एपिसोड एंड प्लीज डू नॉट फॉरगेट टू लाइक, शेयर एंड सब्सक्राइब. वी आर अवेलेबल ऑन ऑल सोशल मीडिया प्लेटफॉर्म्स. सी यू गाइज नेक्स्ट वीक. बाय बाय.